Good morning and happy Valentine's Day, everyone. My name is Dr. Gracie Gordon, St. Mary's alum, class of 2010, and I have the privilege of introducing you to my sister, Hannah Gordon Oysel. Hannah graduated St. Mary's summa cum laude in 2008 before going on to get her BA in French with a minor in sustainability from Auburn Honors College in 2011. She then went on to have the greatest adventure of her life, moving to France in 2012, where she met her husband, pastry chef Franck Oysel. After returning to Memphis with Franck, they married and had a beautiful daughter, Amelia. She has worked as a client service implementation manager at Adams Keegan since 2014, and today Hannah will talk to you about how passion and determination can change your life if only you stay true to your dreams. Without further ado, my sister Hannah.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you to my sister for the sweet introduction. I want to start off by saying how excited I was to be asked to speak today. I, too, sat in these very chapel pews and remember hearing past alumni talk to us about their lives. When I was trying to decide what to talk about today, I immediately thought of my most impactful thing in my life, the root, or as the French say, les racines. That would be the French language and culture. You may be thinking, how can French be the most impactful thing in someone's life? Well, for me, it is the root from which many branches have sprung. It is amazing how a passion for something can alter your life so deeply. While something may be your passion, it does not mean that it's going to come easily to you. It certainly did not for me. But when you have the people in your life that not only see your tenacity and how hard you work, but also help you follow your passion, they help make the brick walls in your path crumble. I specifically remember it was spring semester of 8th grade at the Rising Freshman Night. At that time, we were all required to take Latin in 8th grade. And no offense to Dr. McFadden, I really wanted to take French for my high school language. It had been suggested that I should stick with Latin, but when my mom and I spoke with Madame Nanette Quinn, she emphatically told us, if Hannah wants to take French, have her take French. Her passion for it will help her succeed. You could say that moment was the genesis of how Madame Quinn fueled and encouraged my passion. My love and interest of the French language and culture had always been in my life, but it really rooted itself in Madame Quinn's incredible French classes. Well, she helped transport us to a different culture and way of looking at the world. As she said, when we entered her classroom, we were entering a different world and to let go of the outside for the time we were together. French was not an easy language for me at all, but the passion, encouragement, life lessons, and hysterical jokes Madame Quinn shared truly inspired me to dig deep and tenaciously work hard. I know that most of you don't know Madame Quinn, as she passed away many years ago, but I want to say a grand merci to this larger-than-life lady whose presence and encouragement is still with me till this day, and I would not be where I am today without her belief in me. She taught us one of the most vital lessons one can keep hold of in life, and it came from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's beloved novel, Le Petit Prince. And now here's my secret, a very simple secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. Fast forward 4 years where I landed at Auburn University and decided to major in French and minor in sustainability. Again, my French professors saw my passion for French and of learning, and they continually encouraged me. And like Madame Quinn, they too set a very high bar and one that I diligently worked hard to achieve. I worked hard for something that I loved, and how it has paid off. These professors, like Madame Quinn, brought the French language and culture to life in the classroom, and ironically enough, it was in these French classes that I met two of my dearest friends, again showing me how the French is the root of many good things to come. Besides meeting two of my dearest friends in French class, it is also where a marvelous professor recommended me to apply to teach English in a French school, which is known as TPAF program, Teaching Assistant Program in France. I got accepted by the French government to teach English in a French culinary and hospitality school in the tiny village of Poligny, which is in the Franche-Comté region of France near the Swiss border, about 2 hours northeast of Lyon. To say that I was thrilled would be quite the understatement. I had graduated early in December 2011 and stayed in Auburn till May to work. My departure date to France was set for September 2012 and was to last for 9 months. I had a lot to prepare for. A French long-stay visa at the consulate in Atlanta, official translation of all of my documents like a birth certificate, medical records, etc., packing for 9 months, oh, and that important piece, to actually travel to the tiny village of Poligny, France, alone. So the day came to leave Memphis, tears were shed, I said au revoir to my family for 9 months. But there I was, a 100-pound girl, one giant backpack, one stuffed crossbody purse, one carry-on, and one large check bag. Yes, I looked like a pack mule. I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I had to travel from Memphis to Detroit to Paris, then take a train from Paris to Lyon, and another train from Lyon to Besançon, and then a bus to Poligny. Alone, in a foreign country, there was probably about 150 pounds of luggage. But again, I swear Madame Quinn was encouraging me. She had passed a couple of years prior, but listen to this. While I was on the 2 connecting flights from Memphis to Paris, I noticed the same couple, and I decided to strike up a conversation as they ironically sat next to me on both flights. I came to find out that it was Michelle and her husband from Moza Asian Bistro, and she also took Madame French classes at St. Mary's. What a connection. They were angels in disguise in Paris as they helped get me and my mound of luggage successfully on the train for Lyon. After taking this train and yet another, and then a bus to Poligny, I had made it. Hallelujah. But when the English coordinating professor picked me up, she spoke rapid-fire French, and I was purely overwhelmed. That night, after being awake for likely 24 hours, I thought, what have I done? I'm in a foreign country. I don't know a soul. I can read and write French better than speaking it. Honestly, I was scared. But after a good night's sleep, a coffee, and a fresh French croissant, my doubts and fears slowly subsided as I got to meet all of the English professors I was going to get to work with and the students I was going to get to teach, whose ages ranged from 12 to 23, and also at this time, I too was only 23 years old. But like all the former French professors and Francophiles in my life, these incredible, encouraging, kind professors helped me integrate into their culture, and many even became my lifelong friends. But I will forever be indebted to one professor and his American wife, Pascal and Carolyn. Pascal and Carolyn were very good friends with Didier Matrignon, who is the owner of the local patisserie Au Plaisir Sucré. Didier was the typical French pastry chef, hearty laugh, full of conviviality, very serious about excellent pastries, and loved the American culture and English language. Heck, he even owned a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Pascal knew that I loved cooking and suggested that I swap English lessons for pastry lessons at Didier's patisserie. So the next day, and for the entire rest of my time in France, I would go to the back door, knock on the window, and be greeted with a hearty "Bonjour, Hannah," and entered into the sacred French pastry kitchen. What a dream. Not only was I surrounded by incredible smelling food, talented chefs, but I was experiencing yet another true French immersion. I was in heaven, and I was making friends by bridging the French and American cultures together. But it was in this small pastry kitchen in this tiny French village where I met the love of my life and now husband, Franck Oysel. Franck was one of the pastry chefs, and my, how handsome he was and still is. He did not speak a lick of English, but it didn't matter. We communicated through French, a lot of hand gestures, and cooking. I had never had a boyfriend before I met Franck, and I remember my 2 best college friends telling me that I would meet a guy in France, and I laughed them off. I even specifically remember telling my parents, like on the first or second week in France over Skype, in the local bar, which is the only place I could get Wi-Fi, to never let me marry a Frenchman, because up to that moment, the only ones I had seen were in this bar. They were grungy, smoked, and stared at me without a word. But clearly God had a different plan for me, especially after he planted the seed for my passion for French. Let's just say Franck is the total opposite of these grungy old men at the local bar. Well, I could go into much more detail about my adventures in France. I can sum it up by saying that I fell more in love with the French culture, language, and people, and of course the food, especially the exquisite and delectable creations my husband made. I had the most transformative life experience while in France. I was forced to live outside of my comfort zone every day, and how I look back now and am forever grateful. I learned how to adapt and to communicate with a culture and people that on the outside may look very different. But you know what? People all over the world are just like you and me. They are kind, eager to share customs and traditions, and are passionate to make you feel welcome. It is really my passion for the French language and culture that has shaped who I am today. The people in my life that see my drive to succeed, not only to follow my passion, but to also achieve success, have been instrumental in my life's journey. Even in my job that I've held for almost 9 years at Adams Keegan does not on the surface have anything to do with French. But when you look closely, my success as a client service manager is directly tied. I strive to connect with people from many different backgrounds, businesses, and walks of life, and like my life in France, I want to make a connection with them despite any outward observations. In closing, I want you to remember that while things and experiences may be difficult, if you are passionate about it, please do not give up. Work hard, seek out teachers and people in your life who believe and encourage you. And while I had mainly mentioned the tremendous impact Madam Quinn had upon my life, there are so many teachers sitting both in this chapel today and those who have retired that left a meaningful impact upon my life. I will forever be grateful for the wisdom, kindness, encouragement, high bars, and grace these teachers placed in my life that I carry with me and share with my family and those that I meet in my life. And remember, as Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote in Le Petit Prince, the most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or touched, they are felt with the heart. Merci beaucoup.